This is the podcast that rocked for July 7th, 2023. My name is Luke, host of the YouTube channel Rocked, covering rock, alternative metal, and everything in between. And speaking of rock and covering music, one of the greatest comeback stories of all time could be happening soon. Creed is making a comeback. I don't know if comeback's the right term. I just wanted to make it sound bigger than it actually is. Creed has been replacing their band logos on socials, updating their websites. There's been new photos posted. There's definitely something going on. I would not be surprised if we at least get the announcement of either a new Creed tour as a reunion or new Creed music, because it's been quite a while since either, really, but especially new music. For Creed, you have to remember that even Mark Tremonti has said in interviews, it's a matter of when, not if. Alter Bridge is about to go on this huge tour in the US with Seven Dust and Mammoth Wolfgang Van Halen, so they're busy. However, at the same time, they're going to have plenty to do if Scott Stapp has his act together. And I say this more factually than just trying to sound rude or anything. If Scott Stapp has his act together, he's back sober and completely with it, the tour will do well. It's going to sell no matter what if they have a tour. But if Scott Stapp is back on his game and he's got his head on straight, things could do well, because people have been clamoring for a Creed comeback, believe it or not, which sounds ridiculous, just kind of like Limp Bizkit comeback a couple years ago. This could be something, and I'm not really sure what to think about it yet, but I have cautious optimism. The members of Creed have learned from past grievances and mistakes, whether that was infighting or just poor decision making, and all the personal struggles and drama that went on in personal lives. I have to say, now that age has happened and Alter Bridge has helped gel the other three together, and they've always kept in contact with Scott Stapp through the most part, Creed in 2023 was not on my bingo card, but you know what? It's worth checking off. I'll have more updates as new information comes, but I would not be surprised if either one, we get a new music announcement, or two, a new tour announcement sooner than later, because bands only update their socials and logos and websites when stuff like that happens. And for Creed, you have to go way back to when they had like a web page in 99 and 2000. That's how long they've been around. So, you know what? Let's hear it for Creed, one of the best-selling bands in American history. That is not a joke. Nita Strauss just released her second solo album, The Call of the Void, today. And last night, during the album release party, they had a live show, great attendance, everyone was having a good time, especially Nita at the end of the night, who got proposed to by her boyfriend, the drummer for her band as well. Very cool moment. It was a big surprise for her. This is probably the nicest, most heartwarming things you can think about. Nita Strauss is doing great, going back on tour with Alice Cooper. Her second solo album just came out now, that she is the first solo rock musician to have a #1 song, and she's a guitarist. She has a lot of collaborations on this new album. Everything's going up for her. Congrats to her. Congrats to her fiance. Everything else going on for Nita Strauss. Awesome to see. In the ever-going Motley Crue Motley mess, Mick Mars has announced that, well, I shouldn't say announce, he's put some more clarity on the whole situation with his relationship with the remaining members of Motley Crue, pretty much saying he has no reason to really talk to them anymore. And in fact, during the massive stadium tour last year with Def Leppard, nobody spoke to him throughout 2022 at that whole tour. His quote, "A lot of the time it felt like I was just playing by myself. You know how you can be in a crowd of people and still feel alone? That's how I felt the whole tour. I felt used, sad, and inferior. When we played the last show in Las Vegas of September 2022, I felt relieved. A lot of pressure was gone, but I was very emotionally wounded. They weren't just shallow wounds, they were deep ones, the kind you can't get over. I think all of us would be okay with not speaking to each other, and I don't just mean me with them, I mean them with each other. I don't plan on having a funeral. If I did, I think maybe they'd show up for that just out of courtesy. But for me, there's no funeral. There's no nothing." Dark terms, and I know this is a very tumultuous time for Mick Mars, who is going on with his health issues that he's had for a long time. And the exposed cruelty towards Mick Mars, not only over the years and like that was established in the dirt, but over the last year and a half, especially with that stadium tour, and now it all getting very ugly and really opening up every can of worms you can imagine of how rough that stadium tour was, of Vince Neil not even singing on tour, and we see him lip syncing and doing stuff now with tracks, and Nikki Sixx not even playing bass. Ugh, it's such a mess. I wish the best to Mick Mars. I hope he can be comfortable. He's working on solo stuff now. I definitely do want to hear that. Here's hoping this motley mess will come to an end sooner than later because, wow, it just keeps getting more brutal. In some heavy music news, that's something I totally agree with. Courtney of Spiritbox made a great statement about the over-genreification, or rather sub-genreification from metalheads. Metal is the genre that gets subcategorized so much that people get upset if you classify something incorrectly. Speaking as someone who's had a YouTube channel for years, you better believe people are infuriated if you don't classify or categorize a group in the proper subgenre. Instant uproar. So much backlash, and it's happened for everyone too that ever has any type of content creation. If you improperly label a band metalcore and we're not metalcore, we're metal new metal leaning towards hardcore, stuff like that. Metal is the only real genre that has this issue. Country doesn't have this, pop doesn't have this, R&B doesn't have this. It truly is an elitist issue, but at the same time, it's unnecessary. Courtney from Spiritbox was talking with Kerrang, saying, maybe it's like this in every genre and I don't see it as much, but when Doja Cat puts out a song and she's singing, fans don't go, she's never gonna rap again. We always have to tell people that when you hear a song, that doesn't mean it was created in a linear vacuum. She then finally said, I don't care about genre. I just know we like making heavy music with low-tuned guitars. But I'm like, take me or leave me, this is what we sound like. I feel like a lot of bands are having fun with that too. I, for one, am all for easing up on the massive subgenre categorization in metal, because all that has done is separate and make more divisions within metal. And there's already enough problems as it is getting metal attention to the mainstream, let alone subgenres and classifications, so that way you know which version of metal is actually getting the proper attention. Along with Nita Strauss's new album, we also got new stuff from Raven Age and Better Lovers, the supergroup featuring members of Dillinger Escape Plan, Every Time I Die, and more. This new EP is killer. If you have been missing the Dillinger Escape Plan, or have just been wondering what's going to happen next with Every Time I Die, check out this project. The name of the new EP, God Made Me an Animal, is 4 tracks, but has a lot going on for it. Better Lovers are also going on tour as well. Check that out. Check this new album out. I'm going to be doing a short review of it. I have to say, I'm all for something like this too, or a new supergroup getting together, making an EP, having fun, and figuring where they can go from there, as opposed to bands just sitting on the sides, hoping they can do something and not having to put years into it. The whole Audio Slave situation, which was beautiful and perfect, is a rarity. But something like this is pretty easy to do. Better Lovers prove this is a great situation where friends can get together, make something new and unique that people would want to hear, and it has something that you can remember. Again, God Made Me an Animal is the new EP. They're going on tour this summer as well. Check both of them out. On the YouTube channel now, you can check out the top 10 worst metal fan bases from Google Bard, which has some surprises, some obvious choices, and a lot of ridiculous terminology and classification of what makes a bad metal fan from Bardy, our Google Bard AI robots. Also, I'm currently working on the follow-up to 10 songs we got the meaning of wrong. The follow-up, 10 more extremely misunderstood songs. Yes, I know, not that creative of a title, but I gotta keep it in theme. We'll be following 10 more. I'm already halfway through the video right now, so feel free to check that out, and hopefully by the end of next week. There are so many songs in rock, alternative metal, old, new, you name it, that people were just wildly wrong, and it took decades for bands to clarify what the song actually meant. That's all for the podcast that rocked this week. Big thanks to my patrons and YouTube members. Special thanks to Brandon Bruce, Chris Noman, and Dom Noble. You can check out Dom Noble on YouTube, covering all your literary and film adaptation content. Tons of stuff coming from him, especially stuff with George R.R. Martin. He had a sit down with the author of Game of Thrones and had a lot of discussion of different things going on. You can also check out Wrestling Soup if you're a professional wrestling fan, covering all the wild news and information for both stuff that goes on inside the ring and backstage. Sometimes the stuff behind the scenes is way more interesting than what you see on TV. And finally, if you're into Florida Man news, think of the stupid behavior you see on the internet and in memes all day, check out Radio Dead Air on YouTube. Nash covers the stupid human news every week, proving to you that humans were a bad idea. Thank you again for listening. Please share out the links. And also, if you're wondering why no Billboard Top 3 this week, it's because it's the same as last week. If they're not going to put any effort into changing it, why should I?